Welcome to In The N.O. We are back to talk about all the crazy stuff going on with the Pelicans. Pelicans who have just come off a loss to the Lakers Friday night at home, falling to 2-10, firing Willie Green this morning bright and early around 8:30 a.m. Central Time. Lot of ground to cover. Mason, Jeremy, hello, hi, how's it going?
Always something with this team, man. Can't wait to talk about it.
I was just being a father. I don't know what you guys are talking about. I just got it.
Right. So we are here. We've talked about the Willie Green situation for a while. We did our last podcast covered it. You know, we expected it to happen. This the Monday after the OKC game when they were getting back from their road trip. Everyone that I spoke to expected it to happen, and there were people on that team plane coming back from OKC that night that were like, "This is it. It's over." If you saw the Shams tweet this morning, you know how Shams loves to have drafts ready to go. His draft said, "Fired after 0-6." Something changed. Not quite sure what possibly could have changed there, but we won't speculate on that. That is not our job.
This fucking team.
Willie Green has been let go. The Pelicans have promoted James Borrego to interim head coach. We met with him. I met with him with other media at practice today. We had a Joe Dumars interview presser via Zoom earlier today as well. So, and prior to that, Gail Benson went on record and gave an interview that was published yesterday to Jeff Duncan. So a lot of interviews, a lot of talking, a lot of stuff to cover. Where should we start, fellas?
Trey had 35. Oh, we're not talking about basketball. Fucking team, man. This fucking team. So, hey, I don't know where to go. My camera's on. Not that I want it because it's going to be a lot of cursing today. But you wrote something between the game ending and the firing taking place, and it harped on Gail Benson and the most powerful woman in sports being powerless, feeling as though she couldn't do anything else. Her hands were tied; she couldn't do anything. And then she said, Joe can take over finally.
And something happened.
And something happened out of the blue, even though he wasn't mandated. Remember, he was not mandated to do something that he should have done in the fucking summer. But he wasn't mandated to hold on to this dude and not put Willie Green. I don't want to say dude. We give him respect of his name. Put Willie Green out of his misery and not into this season as a head coach. But after hearing her hands being tied, you wrote a very great post. You care to explain on what you wrote right a mere hours before the firing?
Yeah. So yesterday was a funny day. The Jeff Duncan interview with Gail Benson published on No.com, and immediately I think a lot of people had a lot to say about it, given the quotes that are put on there. Also, one of y'all's audios is tripping out for might be Mason's, but yeah, it's fine. So a lot of people had a lot to say about the quotes that are published in there. Did Gail Benson even write those quotes herself? Was it a fair interview? Did someone else orchestrate? There were details in that interview where she was talking about Luke Fortner or whatever, and how much cap space they saved with Derek Carr, and they did all these machinations, which okay, Gail, are you really hip with all that stuff? So people rightfully were kind of speculating what was going on, but I thought, okay, beyond that, there was a theme. There was a theme in the interview that I personally thought was a little bit ridiculous and came across as tone deaf, and the theme was, there's really not much more I can be doing, and fans need to get over it and accept that. And whether that was when discussing, should Mickey Loomis be held accountable, or whether that was discussing, just her financial commitments to the team, the most common refrain was, "I'm doing all I can," and that to me, it's kind of like the let them eat cake moment for Pelicans and Saints and New Orleans sports fan, because these are two teams that are in complete disarray. And this, on the Saints side, again, I am not that knowledgeable about football, but because of my proximity to the Pelicans, I get exposed to a lot of the way the football stuff operates and how they think over there. And because of that, that's a team that refused to mention or I guess accept that they were rebuilding for years. And that's a team that, their plan was to have Derek Carr and to try to win games until Derek Carr was like, please, I do not want to be here, right? Literally, I will stop playing the sport of football and I do not want to be here. That's a team. And then, but in the interviews, they're gaslighting you and they're saying, well, everyone should accept it. We're rebuilding. It's okay. And it's like, no, like they went out of their way to say that they weren't rebuilding. It's kind of the same stuff with the Pelicans. It's like, oh, we're spending all this money. We're going to do all these renovations. And it's like, you haven't paid the luxury tax ever. You talk to players who are no longer on this team. And players' families who are no longer on this team, and they will tell you it's a night and day difference when they hit a new organization. I'm not talking about like when they go to like the Lakers. I'm talking about when they hit other small market organizations, and they will tell you that, wow, the way they treat their families, the way the player amenities work, the way the organization is functioning from top to bottom is just levels above what Gail's organizations are functioning. And so for her to say I'm doing all I can just comes across as someone that is just really not in tune with how these multi-billion-dollar organizations are supposed to work.
Amino went on the record just a couple weeks ago and spoke on, how they used to practice at the Alario Center. Now, of course, that's a decade ago, but it's still, they're so far behind the times. They want to catch up to the issues that plagued them 2 decades ago to be up to date a decade, and they refuse to spend to be at the current level of having a basketball team run properly because their hands are tied. They can't do anything else. She doesn't understand that you have to pour into something and not just have in name only a basketball team. Like, I just don't. This goes beyond the coaching situation.
Yeah. I think we may have lost Mason.
I think, yeah.
But that's okay. Look,
his blank stare really is how I feel on the inside.
It's the same amount of effort that
I had some connectivity issues.
Oh, man.
Yeah, sorry, Mason, were you about to chime in with something?
Yeah, like I guess one thing that kind of blew me away, it's not about the team, it's about the reaction to that interview from Gail. And look, I'm not on Twitter anymore. Maybe I missed some takes, but I feel like everyone's so focused on the lease and everything around the team and their and whether or not they're going to stay in New Orleans that no one talked about what you were talking about, which is like what you should be taking away from that interview. Not just, oh, okay, well, hopefully the team will stay in New Orleans after Gail dies. But like, she's not going to sell until she dies. And so like, cool. But like, that's what you took away from it is, I think, is like, I was a little, again, appalled that wasn't kind of like the common like commentary that was going on about that article. But maybe I missed something. I don't know.
No, for the most part, that's all the residents of this city want. They don't want the team taken away because then you have to admit it's a failure. That's all they care about. Don't take the Saints away. Don't take the Pelicans away. Are we going to go there when they win? And I actually feel that's how you should go. But that's all they care about is having the ability to say we have a basketball team. And that's if the owner feels that way, if the residents feel that way. So, of course, that's going to be the biggest takeaway from the majority of people.
Well, I want to say, like, the people of New Orleans and the people in this region, it's not just about having a basketball team. Like, this is a very, very, very passionate fan base. They want a
Yes.
product that is competitive. They want to be in the stands rooting for a team that gives a damn, right? And for the majority of this organization's existence, the fans have not been treated to that. And we don't have to revisit the win-loss history of every single season. We don't have to revisit the playoff records. But what we all understand is that right now they're 2-10, and the apathy from the fan base has never been greater. It was a Friday night game against the Lakers. And typically the way Lakers games work in the Smoothie King Center is roughly 40 to 50% of the crowd is LA jerseys, and it's going to be sold out because people want a chance to watch that team because that team has stars. This was a night where there were just like swaths of open seats in the lower bowl, and just it was one of the deadest environments I'd ever seen in the Smoothie King Center for a primetime Friday night game, right? Obviously, it's different if you're playing on a Tuesday against the Washington Wizards and Zion's not playing and your stars aren't playing. Okay, very understandable. But I mean, Luka Doncic was there. This was the Lakers, and so the part of ownership's responsibility is to be a good steward for these franchises because they are an integrated part of the community and the city of New Orleans. And that is, as a billionaire, obviously you view it as a business venture and you want to make money. And that's pretty much all these, like with Gail and her ownership group, that's their primary concern. That's what they treat it as. But they're forsaking the responsibility to the city and to the community because without fans' interest, there is no team for them to make money off of. There is no interest. There is no good press. And frankly, they are kind of reaping the of what they sowed because they're according to Gail, she's taking the brunt of the criticism, right? And it's like, okay, sure. Like the brunt of this doesn't fall upon you. This is so much more worse for the people that are not increasing their net worth by multiple times over into the billions of dollars, right? This is so much worse for the average Joe that wants to attend a night with their family in the Smoothie King Center. And for once, they want to be able to watch a good team and to root for the team that has New Orleans written on front of its jersey. And they're like, this is just a miserable experience because by the third quarter, they're down 15. By the time the third quarter is over, they're down 27. And that is the average night right now for the Pelicans, and that's super, super tough to swallow. And I think people on Airline Drive need to recognize that this isn't about them. They need to be doing more to win the trust back from the city, not just with the Pelicans, but with the Saints too. It is really bad out there for a sports fan in Louisiana right now.
And on top of that, as you mentioned, they're also pricing people out. They're also pricing people out with these ticket sales. They're pricing season ticket holders out. Their concessions are higher. Everything is going up except for people's wages. And then you're putting the shit product on the court and on the field. So not just the fact that you're out of touch with the wins and losses everyday runs of the organization. You're also out of touch with how the market is going, and everyone is fighting tooth and nail just to keep their lights on, and you keep increasing the prices of a shitty basketball team.
Yeah, I can tell you, and having conversations with my father about this pretty consistently, that for the last 2 or 3 years, the only reason he's continued to re-up his season tickets is because he doesn't want to lose the team. He doesn't want the team to go somewhere else because the fan support's not there. And I think every year, I think he might be at his wit's end. So he keeps renewing. Good for him. But I imagine that's the sentiment for a lot of people too. It's like how much more of a beating are you willing to take just because individually it's like you're not going to do anything by yourself. You individually would not be the reason that the team stays or goes. But at the same time, I understand that philosophy. But eventually, it's going to break. And Jay, to your point, I mean, if you're charging prices that are ridiculous for the product that's on the court, something's got to give.
But that's the pride and resiliency that Schmidt just spoke on.
Yeah.
They want to cheer for this team. They want this team to be here. They want to have a product they can be proud of. That's absolutely true. It sounds like lines when you hear the Pelicans players and coaches say it, but it's actually true. They want a product on the court they can be proud of. They wouldn't care about spending the money as much if you act like you gave a damn, and there was a product for them to appreciate and be proud of. Instead of thinking they have to save this organization from itself and from getting out, leaving the city.
Yeah, I mean, look, longtime season ticket holders will remember when the team was in a state of transition between ownerships. When the league owned the team, there was this big push to get to 10,000 season ticket sales. Right, that was the number that they needed to hit in order to kind of keep the team in New Orleans, quote unquote, because they were looking for that local buyer, and that's like David Stern was looking to make sure the team didn't leave New Orleans, and so. To Mason's point, like the longtime season ticket holders still have that mentality. There was such a big push to keep the team in New Orleans, and that 10,000 number is still burned into people's brains, and they think that like, hey, like if we don't do our part, maybe this team will eventually relocate. And I think to kind of assuage people's fears, and I actually had an agent yesterday come up to me at the game and ask me like, hey, like what is actually going on with this relocation situation? We love New Orleans, we love the city, but like, yo, like what's happening? And I think this part of Gail Benson's interview is actually true and should be taken at face value. She will not sell those teams. As long as she is alive, she will not sell those teams. And so right now, the lease situation is something that they are currently working on. It expires in 2029. They just finished the Dome negotiations. And so now they're moving forward to figure out what they want to do with this Willie King Center. There's a number of options on the table. Don't think they have picked a concrete lane yet. Obviously, there are some people in that camp that would love a brand new arena so they can just have more space for parking and other things near the Dome for football and just do something completely separate. But there has to be a level of feasibility because whether we like it or not, the Benson group is going to have to partner with the state to do anything with the arena. And this will take on taxpayer dollars. I know that's a very unpopular thing, but that's just how it's going to work in New Orleans. That's just how it's going to work in Louisiana. And so whether that looks like a short-term extension on the lease with some minor improvements committed to the Willie King Center with an eye on a long-term new arena later, or just a straight-up new arena commitment plan now, we don't know yet, but those are the talks that they're in. So I completely believe that we'll have some sort of resolution on, hey, maybe there's an 8-year extension on the lease. Maybe there's a 5-year extension on the lease, but the team is not going anywhere at this moment. There's no fear for relocation. So we can't put that to bed. I do think, Ms. Benson was honest there. The interview itself, I am of the knowledge that, people are speculating, like, was she reading, like was Greg Benson basically typing in the answers for her? And so the answer is no, she was, Jeff Duncan did go interview Gail Benson. She did answer all those questions. Now, was she heavily coached? Did she have a ton of notes in front of her? Did she have a lot of reference points? Absolutely. But it was an interview that it wasn't a third party basically answering those questions. It was a real interview. Yeah, I mean, this is where they're at right now. And now the part in the interview I think was kind of illuminating was she was asked about what would the future of Willie Green be, and she said, I hired Joe Dumars and I trust Joe Dumars to make whatever decision he needs to make. If that's what he decides, that's on him. It's not me. I don't make any of those decisions. That's effectively, I mean, I'm paraphrasing. It's not a direct quote, but I might as well be. Like, that is what she said. Did you guys find what do you make of her just pushing all of the responsibility onto Joe regarding Willie and saying that's him, not me?
That's his job, right? Like, I was happy that she put the pressure on Joe, because up until yesterday, my entire thought process was, you are holding this team back with keeping Willie Green on the roster. I mean, as the coach. Technically, I was right, because not even 24 hours after that article hits, he's fired. So I was relieved that she put on the record that this is going to fall at Joe's feet, however this goes down. Because I wouldn't want to be tied to Willie Green. I wouldn't want to be tied to a guy who's been here for 4+ years and it has gotten
as an owner. Like, wait, sorry. Can you clarify that?
I'm saying
Joe.
As Joe, I wouldn't want to be tied to him. I would want to bring in my own guy. Personally, I wish he would have said that in April, so he could have did that in the summer. That has always been my point. You allow executives to bring the head coach they want, so everyone starts fresh. And in 2019, for good or for ill, they did something similar to this, and they immediately got rid of the head coach at the end of the year. Why go through the same bullshit again? Why make that same mistake again? Exactly, because you don't want to spend a couple fucking dollars. Like, what the are you trying? And that goes back to: are you actually trying to be an owner and the ownership group of a team that wants to win?
What?
Saying that, go ahead.
No, I mean, I think it's two things. I think it's that she genuinely likes Willie, and it's the.
Hey man,
I think
like a lot of
the money
too.
too.
Life. I don't want to be. I don't want to be.
Look, man, I hear you, and I think it's a combination of things. She liked Willie, and she knew that if worst comes to worst, she has to fire him in season. Saves you $5 million. Like, let's be honest, like probably something like that. Whatever. I mean, Borrego will get a pay bump, I'm sure, for an interim head coach, but the delta between that and hiring a new coach for last year, plus you're paying Willie Green.
Plus the search, right? They're gonna get a search firm involved. Like,
yep.
It's one
way. 5 to 10 million.
Sure.
5 to 10 million.
You're
probably.
That's what she said. Woman in sports. You're worth billions of dollars. Act like it.
Yeah.
Act like it. This is not acting like it.
Yeah. So I think, to put a bow in that, people as we've Patrick says I'm advertising my coaching search firm. Yeah, me too. I've been saying this whole time, any NBA teams, so there is a sports there's a search firm for executives. It's called Sportsology. We've talked about it on this podcast. This guy named Mike Ford runs it. The number 2 in command, his last name is literally Manhunter, I'm pretty sure. It's actually crazy.
That's a great name.
I think it's Patrick Manhunter. Anyways, doesn't matter. That sports firm is what that search firm is what every NBA team kind of uses these days when they want to hire a new GM or a new executive, right? Pay me the money. I'll tell you this. I'll give you the same list of the executives that are out there. I might even give you a different list, and I promise you the results will be the same. Same thing with the coaches. Just give me the money. I'll tell you what coaches are out there. But no, I think what people need to realize is that this is kind of an implicit admission that Joe is de facto owner of the Pelicans, right? Obviously, he's not owner in title. He's not in the trust the same way Benson, Loomis, Lausch, and them are. But for intents and purposes of making decisions, and so how Gale doesn't really have to think about the Pelicans, Joe is supposed to serve in that role. That means Troy Weaver is handling the day-to-day stuff. He's acting more like a GM. So I think that is a very, very important delineation, and it's going to become even more important when we get to the point when they eventually do the coaching search and we see, who has a preference for what. Because I promise you, Troy Weaver's going to have preferences, right? He's the Stefan Bondi already reported Kevin Ollie, and that's someone that Weaver was attached to when he was trying to make a hiring in Detroit. That's someone he got. I don't remember the timeline if this was during the Monty stuff. I think it was, and I think he got overridden. But Kevin Ollie is someone that he was attached to. I think there are a couple other names that you might see that are more Weaver candidates than they are Dumars candidates, and it's imperative, in my opinion, for Joe Dumars to put his management hat on and to make the executive decision to really make this his choice, his vision. Because the last thing you want to do is to lean all the way into Troy Weaver's preferences, and all of those decisions then reflect back upon you. All of a sudden, you're in a position where you didn't build a roster, Troy did. You didn't pick the coach, Troy did. All of these other things. And if it fails, it looks so poorly upon you. So I would say that's something we got to keep in mind heading into next spring. But more immediately, James Borrego, interim head coach. Here we are. Wait. Before we even get there, I didn't even talk about the Joe Dumars interview. Anyway, sorry. We had a whole Joe Dumars interview today. This day's been crazy for me. I didn't eat until like 2:30 p.m.
No,
we were texting about this, and did we ever where was Joe Dumars when the interview happened?
So this is highly unusual. This is a fair question, right? So for people who are not aware, the Joe Dumars presser was on Zoom, and not only was it on, it's gonna be impossible to keep a straight face.
Hey man, they gave us a solo shot on the YouTube page. Nah, this is insane.
The chat is acting up. Please, try to be serious here. Come on, fellas.
No.
I asked that question that open-ended for a reason. So thank you for following through, everybody.
Okay. So the interview was on Zoom, and Joe Dumars didn't have his camera on during the whole interview. And look, I might be making a mountain out of a molehill. Like, honestly, really, it's not that big of a deal. But it felt to me that like Joe kind of should have gone in front of the press himself and faced them face to face, right? We were all scheduled to be at the practice facility later, literally an hour later. We were supposed to be at the practice facility, and I think there was opportunity there for Joe to come out and address the media face to face and have this conversation. But it was done through Zoom without a camera, so it felt a little bit impersonal. But credit to Joe, he did field every single question and answered all of them. Now, he did direct a lot of the answers basically back to his theme was, we don't have an identity, and that's what we got to do. We got to find what our identity is. We got to build our identity, and whatever's happening right now, that's not it. This ain't it. But yeah, I think regarding the Zoom stuff, I think I've said on this podcast before, it doesn't seem to be uncommon for Joe specifically in that, team employees have said that they don't talk to him all that frequently, but they do talk to him through Zoom. So maybe that's just how he wants to operate. That's just how he handles business. But did you guys have an opportunity to listen to that interview top to bottom, or should I kind of hit on some key points?
Hit on some key notes. I didn't get the opportunity to. Again, I was being a father.
Yeah, so I think he was not afraid to be honest about what Willie was doing was not working. He said there was a point in the conversation where he said, we're losing the same way every single night. He said he's talked about wanting to have a team that goes out there and competes, and what's happening is unacceptable. He said that he's not a status quo person, and he's never going to be a status quo person. And so I thought he didn't shy away from, I think he was graceful with appreciating what Willie had done without bashing the man, but I also didn't think he shied away from answering stuff with regards to these were things that we were just not seeing improvement on with regards to the culture and identity. And that's why he felt like he needed to make a change. I asked him specifically, my question to him was, this summer, you said Zion's going to be the face of the franchise. And with this coaching change, are you still committed to building around that? Or is there a change in timeline, or is there going to be a shift moving forward? And he was very careful in his response, because he said, yeah, I said that, but I also said we want to build a team that's not reliant on one person. And he chose to really emphasize that aspect of it in his response, where he was like, that's what we want to be. We're trying to be a team that's not just one person. It's a group, and we're trying to play a certain way, and we're trying to represent the city and all this kind of stuff. So he steered the question. He had an opportunity to be like, yes, Zion's still the guy. He didn't do that. He steered the conversation to, it was a non-answer, but I think in the non-answer, it was a little bit telling of what he chose not to say. So there was that aspect of it. And then, I think someone had asked him about why now as opposed to in the summer. I didn't think he had a great answer to that, but I think it's because he can't say Gale wanted to keep Willie around. He effectively said something to the effect of, I had seen the Pelicans before I was hired a couple of years ago, and they were doing pretty good. I thought Willie was doing a good job, and I just wanted to be fair to him and give him an opportunity. That was
garbage.
I did see that. I did see y'all like that, and I wanted to say, if you wanted Willie to have a fair opportunity, he could go to Dallas every October. There's a state fair there. I enjoy it. That's all the fairs he can get.
Yeah, I heard that answer too, and that one just it screams bullshit, right? I mean, like,
yes.
why are you talking about 2 years ago? Like, the last time the team was like competent with him under, like, he's had chances. Like, yeah, I agree with you. Like, I think it's maybe even worse than you made it teed it up to be. I think it's clear BS.
Yeah, and par for the course, right? This every single NBA executive, when you interview them, they're gonna have moments like this, right? They're doing their job. That is their job, and Joe's job to shield ownership and make this about him and his decisions, right? So I think with regards to Willie, I think the way it all ended was unfair to him and unfair to sort of everybody involved. And that's not to say he didn't deserve to get fired. I think a change was necessary. But again, they went 0-6. Everyone was under the impression that he was going to get let go. Coaches around the league were under the impression that he was going to get let go. He didn't get let go. They dragged it out. They had multiple home games where they wouldn't introduce him. I asked him, was this your choice? And he said, no, this is not my choice. And then he played it off. It's like, well, I don't really care. I just want to win the game in front of me. But he let it be known it wasn't his choice. And I think that's messed up a little bit because I understand the Pelicans' perspective. They want to protect him. They introduce him, boos come down, and they're like, okay, well, that's not cool. We just want to introduce him. It still should have been his choice. It's still, the organization should still be behind him 100%. It should have been like, hey, Willie, we support you. We want to do right by you. We're going to keep introducing you. They're booing you. However, if that's something you don't want to hear, we can stop doing that. And that would have given him the ability to be like, you know what? Yeah, I don't really care about introductions. Don't do it. Like, let's not dampen the mood.
I'm curious because the way that, based on his answer, that plays out either one of two ways. It's either one, just one game, suddenly it happens and he doesn't get introduced, or they say, hey, Willie, we're going to stop introducing you. And he's like, okay. And so, like, that's not his decision, right? So I guess, like, my assumption is they just, like, one game just did it and, like, didn't even tell him they weren't going to do it. But I think even that matters a little bit as far as, like, which route they chose.
Yeah, I mean, it just goes to show you, like, there's levels of communication that need to happen. And there's a gap, in my opinion, in the organization for those levels of communication. The other thing is, by dragging this out this far, we sort of touched on it before. I think it hurts Willie's legacy. He's a young coach.
Yes.
He can get back in the game. He can boomerang back later. JB just finally got back in the game. There's probably going to be opportunities, but the longer you stay attached to this mess, the more you specifically become associated with it. And the other thing is, if they just would have done it in the summer, they were open head coaching spots that it's a possibility. We don't know, but it's a possibility he could have been under consideration for. And I'm looking at the Phoenix one specifically.
Yep. His name was out there attached to that job. And I kept putting on social media to take him out of his misery. But he should have been taken out of his misery, and he could have been placed in a better light, both locally and nationally, because you could have said 3 straight seasons with improved records, despite having a roster that is constantly injured, and then 1 season where everything went to shit. Let him go out there. He was able to save face, and he's not attached to this bullshit that's happened from unnecessarily with the draft day bullshit, and now you have another 10 losses hung on your record, and you're being thrown as he's the scapegoat. He's the scapegoat for all this. Not saying he shouldn't have been fired. Again, he should have been released last spring. Doing it now just does nothing.
David Griffin had his way, right? It would have been
But
around
it's February. February.
For that, right?
Yeah.
Like your turn of the new year, right?
And I guess I'm curious, like if I'm Willie and let's be like, do you think he was totally oblivious to the fact the locker room was already tuning him out? Like he couldn't have been, right? And so I guess if you're Willie, why aren't there could have been like a mutual parting of ways here that would have benefited everyone. And it's not like he's giving up his final year of contract, but like if he doesn't think this is the right fit for him, if he sees the writing on the wall, and to both your points, if there's other jobs out there, why wouldn't he want to just cut bait? And so I'm curious, like why, even for that reason, why this didn't just end in the summer. If he just if I know like you want to be optimist, right? Like that's the NBA player in you, right? We're going to turn this around, but I don't know. I'm just kind of surprised for that reason, like why he wouldn't have just kind of force the issue a little bit.
I think there's some truth to the fact that Borrego touched on it today. It's like only 30 people in the world get to do this job, and you just don't know if you'll ever get that opportunity again. So like if you have it, why not do everything you possibly can to go out so you can go out on your own terms?
Yeah.
Don't just volunteer your way out of it. So
yeah,
that would be my perspective on that.
That's the best answer. Yeah, I hear that for sure.
The only 30 of these jobs, I got one. I'm gonna always believe that I can fix what's happening around here. If you're gonna keep me here, I'm gonna try my best to fix it.
Right. So that was I think the big stuff from the Dumars stuff interview. The main thing he kept hammering was identity and how there hasn't been an identity, and that's what this year's not about wins and losses. It's not about making the playoffs. It's about building and finding that identity, figuring out who we are. That was the theme of his presser. On to the second presser, just the James Borrego one. We get to the practice facility, and the first thing we see is Borrego speaking with Zion in front of everybody on the open, one-on-one. It's on the other side of the court. We enter from one side, and he's on the other side, but we can see him clear as day speaking to Zion, them talking. And then he takes time to go speak with players individually, calls them back to their backspace, and he's having the one-on-one conversations with pretty much every guy. After all that's concluded, he finally makes his way to us. Well, we got Trey Murphy first as our interview. Typically we get coaches first and then players. It's not always the case typically, but we got Trey Murphy first. We talked to him about the firing and all that, and then finally we got Borrego. And Borrego, it was almost a 30-minute interview. He was thorough, comprehensive, answered everything that
I did get a chance to watch that one.
I recommend pulling up, going up to the Pelicans YouTube channel and watching that. My key takeaways from Borrego's interview: one, just demeanor, very, very sharp, he will happily elaborate on questions and get into the weeds with you. Each response is measured but thorough. And I think with Willie, sometimes you got a lot of repetitive coach boilerplate stuff, which I think is fine for some parts, but sometimes you just really wish you got more, because there'd be times where I would ask him about specific plays or specific moments in the game, and I would have loved a little bit more detail, because again, he's one of 30 NBA head coaches, and it's not often you get those perspectives. So I'm optimistic that that's something we're going to be able to do with JB, is to really get down the weeds of X's and O's and just coaching and decision making in basketball. I asked him about lineup constructions, and he had a very measured response of it's early, the sample sizes are small. He would like to have 5 to 10 games to try things. But he's like, hey, by the way, I heard Zion and Queen have a good pairing. Somebody told me that, and he's doing it in a way where he's kind of feigning ignorance, but
Yes.
He very intentionally put that out there, and I think he knows exactly what he's doing. I think he knows exactly what those numbers are. To be honest with you, I think he knows exactly what he wants to do with some of those lineup restrictions. But it's just something where it's like he's subtly, but maybe not so subtly, letting you know, hey, he's looked at the data. He knows what it says. He knows that pairing specifically is awesome, and he wants to explore it more. And he was honest that he's like, look, I don't know. He said, I don't know if this is going to be the answer, if that is actually real, but we're going to find out, And that's kind of like what you want from a coach is like, yeah, why not? Let's find out.
Yeah. You broke it down. He was very thorough with his answers, unlike me. But I sat down. I enjoyed it. He seems like a guy that's ready. He understood the task that's at hand, and he wants to get after it. And he understands that they don't have many of these opportunities. And personally, I can't wait to see it because, quite frankly, I just want to see it. I want to see something new on the court. I know it's going to take a couple games to get acclimated. Some things that could have happened in the summer, but it's near there. But here and now, but it's going to take some time. But I can't wait to see some new changes. Maybe some more pace. He kept harping that when he was in Charlotte, he led the league in assists. So he wants to move the ball, and he wants to get the right lineups on the court. So I can't wait to see his lineup construction and his pace and what he has and the plays that he has out there. It's something new, something refreshing.
Yeah, I don't want to overestimate anything around like how the player is going to respond to him. I think there's going to be an uptick compared to Willie. I think obviously the players tune him out. I'm not going to say that they're suddenly respond and think Borrego's like the coach they always wanted, right? But I think the flexibility that even that first interview shows, that willing to try new stuff and not just hold on to old points of view or just hypotheses about player archetypes, player skill sets, and just say, I know what they are, and I'm not going to use them a certain way. And being able to look at numbers, look at data to not use that to make your decision by itself, but have it at least be an input, be willing to try different stuff and see what works. And so I think that part is what has me most excited for this change. And so I'm not saying this team is suddenly going to go on an 8-game winning streak, right? But I think feeling like we're not going to, like what Dumars said, like we're losing the same way every time. Yes. I don't believe that. We're going to lose. We're going to find new and exciting ways to lose against Borrego. Let's go.
And he was open and honest when they told him about this 3-game stretch, like you going straight into the fire. He's like, yeah, that is a tough stretch, but I'm ready for it. He joked, but he understands who's coming up. Steph, SGA, and the Joker. Good luck.
Yeah, look, with any coach in the early portions of it, they deserve grace. They deserve a time period to imprint their vision onto the roster, and B, just kind of catch a rhythm of what they're trying to do. And so Borrego is not going to transform the offense with a snap of his finger. Nope. That's unrealistic. But you hope that over time in these 5 to 10 game stretches that he talks about, you see more and more stuff that they add and they build onto their base. And you want to see an upward trend in progression, right? Like Pelicans were 2-10 right now, first 12 games.
Yep.
So they have 70 games left, right? Increments of 10. I think that's kind of how you have to explore. You have 7 increments of 10 left, and each of those increments of 10, you have to find a way to be climbing upwards, one way or another. And I think if we see that, one, it'd be great for the players and everybody involved. 2, I think it'd be great for Borrego's chances of being retained. if we don't see that, we're going to be back here in the summer talking about who should be the next head coach.
Yep.
I do want to get your guys' thoughts on. Okay, so they've made this coaching change. Should they be making significant roster changes as well? Is ripping Band-Aids off? Should we rip all of them off right now?
I say no.
Go ahead.
I want to see what I want to see how different some of the players respond to Borrego first, before doing that. I'm not saying we're far off from that point, to be clear, but I do want to at least see a few games of these of the guys we got and see if there's a. I don't want to sell low. I guess for certain guys is kind of the point here.
Yeah, I would rather see rotation and lineup changes before we start talking about taking a sledgehammer to the roster. I want to see how the guys get acclimated with running a new style, new sets before I'm doing that. So yeah, I wouldn't do anything yet. I would hold off to probably the new year before we start thinking about what we're doing to the roster. And again, these are all questions we could have been asking in the fall if they'd have done this correctly.
Do you feel that way about Zion as well? Like, is it hey,
I want to see it. I want to see.
System?
Yeah, I want to see Zion and Queen and Trey and Fierce and Herb together before we make any changes, because something may click.
For me, it's not even about. I'm not so optimistic that I'm like something might click. For me, it's just about where do we think from an asset valuation. Maybe I'm being optimistic about asset valuation, but like maybe like are we if they're the trade Zion right now, is that the right time to move him versus get him back on the floor, hope that he doesn't get hurt again, and then think about it. Like I guess that's where I'm at. I'm more thinking about like is it the right
Zion for 7 years, right? That's the
no doubt.
You've been trying to thread. Look, I'm still of the camp that they should just get it over with and just lean all the way into the Derek Queen era and just try to figure out what are good fits and really trying to push the boundaries there. But in the meantime, when obviously I don't think this is going to happen anytime soon, will I enjoy them trying to figure out how to play for Queen and Zion together? Absolutely. Will I? I think there are a lot of fun combinations that they can do with that group, especially with Trey Murphy and Sadiq Bey. That frankly JB was talking about in his press conference as well. He thinks he has a unique set of pieces that he's going to be able to move across the chessboard, and it'll be nice. I truly hope for these like next however long for us to be talking about basketball, because there's been this massive distraction taking over this team for a long time. And now, win or lose, good or bad, probably going to be more bad than good. We can still talk about, the next time we're on here, it's going to be like, hey, we saw them try to do this. This didn't work.
Yes.
Rather than, fire the coach.
Yo, y'all.
Are they quitting on it?
Yeah. What y'all don't understand is that we will text and we're talking about basketball, and I'll be like, we just want to talk about basketball, and then we're about the pod. We can't talk about basketball. We want to talk about the sport. We want to talk about these guys improving. We want to talk about these guys maybe falling back. We want to examine the game and speak on the game that as we see fit. We don't want to talk about all this all the time. It's not fun.
No. I am going to open this part up. If there's any questions in the chat, put them in there. Otherwise, I think we're going to wrap it up. There's first game of James Borrego era tomorrow against Steph Curry Warriors. Best believe that I'm going to be there. I think there is a level of, today was difficult for people, like a change and transition. And this is always difficult, especially for like the coaching staff itself, because those are guys that Willie brought into the fold.
Yes.
And so, to a level, like there's always going to be loyalty and there's always going to be camaraderie there. Like you've been through ringer together. Like it's not just one guy's fault that things don't work. It never is. But I think once that part of it is, they're past it, I think there is a level of excitement. Here's a question from Funky. He says, do you expect Zion to play tomorrow? I would expect Zion to play Monday, because then they can get away with not doing the back-to-back. That would be my guess on Zion. But we'll see. Maybe the James Borrego era, this guy's geared up and ready to go.
Yeah, that was funny. The news breaks, and then immediately after Zion gets up there to be questionable. Huh. Interesting.
That's extremely interesting. I also want to say, because for the last year plus, it's been negative speaking, firing Willie. It wasn't all bad. You know what I'm saying? I had fun. I remember them still fighting when they were 4-16 in 2021. I remember being excited the day before my birthday when they made the play-in by beating the Clippers. The we gotta fight speech when they're down 15. We're not gonna talk about him playing Tony Snell and not playing Trey.
That's it.
But
you said Tony Snell, and I'm out of it, bro.
But it wasn't all bad. I had a lot of fun doing this tenure, but it was just time for a new, and everyone understood that, which is what frustrated us the most, because they strung this on for far too long.
Yeah, I mean, it's heavily play-in driven, but how many years has this team made the playoffs back-to-back seasons? The answer is not many. If you want to call the play in the playoffs, we did.
I call it the postseason. They made three straight postseason appearances under Willie.
Look at that.
That's like a Mickey Mouse postseason.
I do not care.
The bar is so low.
Hey man, it is under my shoe, bro. The bar is so low.
All right. Next question. This one is from Kyle. How many players on the team can you confidently say disliked Willie? I think this is a little bit of a loaded question, in that you can not enjoy working for someone or working with someone, but still like the person or the human, So I think there's a little bit of separation there. I would say that as a coach, I feel pretty confident in saying that he had lost the majority of support from the players as a coach. As a human, I think these are all good guys that genuinely wish the best for Willie and his family. But I think players were very much frustrated being coached by Willie Green. And so that's where I will leave it at. But it was, to my understanding, he had zero player support. I think at one point he had some left, and I think it started to erode very, very quickly at the beginning of this season. We'll see if someone else reports on this. There's always messy reporting breakups. There's going to be some stuff that comes out from both sides, I'm sure. Next question. What would you want to see in a Zion trade?
Right now, if we can not have to give away draft assets, preferably a first and matching salary, and I'll be happy.
I'm not there yet. I'm not ending this party for that little return when it's not like this, like an albatross on your Bucks.
For first.
My bar is so much lower than both of y'all's. Like, just give me. I'm dead serious. Call up the Kings, please. Go get Keegan Murray and Malik Monk, and I'll be happy. I don't even care about anything else. Just get me, because what I want is a big wing shooter to put next to Queen. I give me someone that is 6'7" and above, hopefully 6'8", 6'9". Stop it. And I would love to build an army of wings around Queen so that can mask his general size deficiencies. And then, you figure out what you're going to do with the guard spot. If it's Fears ready to take the lead, then Fears is ready to take the lead, But that's where I'm at with it. Next question. Do you think Mike Malone would have any interest in this hellhole of a job? Let me tell you the story about Monty Williams. He offered him a job in Detroit. He said, no, I don't want to coach here. And the owner said, "How would you like this generational bag?" And he said, "I would love to coach in Detroit. Sign me up there." So I think there's always a number where people are willing to come. Are the Pelicans willing to hit that number for Malone specifically? I would be skeptical. I would be skeptical. I would be skeptical. I think he's going to have better job choices. Personally, on a personal level, I would not want Mike Malone as the head coach. I have heard far too many stories about how he's very, very difficult to deal with, how he burns out his players, how he doesn't develop young players. And I think if this was a team that was genuinely in contendership and willing to take the championship step, I'd be far more open to it. But given where they are as an overall roster, I would be very, very against this hire, like strongly against this hire. And that's my 2 cents on that.
After the 2024 season, when they won 49 games, if you'd have told me Mike Malone or Tom Thibodeau, I'd have been absolutely try to elevate them. Now they need some. No. Their base is gonna run thin with the roster that's currently constructed.
Yeah. Next question. I think I didn't skip any. Which do you see as becoming consistently reliable shooter from what you've seen so far? Fears being, or wait, sorry, I read
reliable
sooner. Which do you see sooner, not shooter, sooner.
Yes.
So they're talking about shooting later.
Mm-hmm.
Which do you see becoming consistently reliable sooner from what you've seen so far? Fears being a 35% or more 3-point shooter, or Queen being almost passable on D in space?
Probably the shooting being more reliable sooner. Mainly because Derek's going to need to know which angles to take on the court, become passable defensively in space. And Fears, especially when Zion comes back, is just going to get a lot of open shots. So he'll have a better opportunity to continue his upward trajectory with the shooting or maintaining the shooting he has. Personally, that's how I feel.
Yeah, I'm looking. So Fear shot 28% at Oklahoma. So I think it's a fair question to be asking. But he's still young. He's a kid. I think Fears is the easier step to take. But
oh no, Queen just took out his internet, so you don't. Derek took out his internet.
Sports sent the hit to Cox. Oh no, he's in Detroit.
You're in Detroit. No.
Okay.
Troy Weaver took out.
That's Weaver. That's Weaver territory.
He still got some shooters out there in Detroit.
Mason didn't check in.
Y'all gonna talk about money, huh?
Yeah. I'm gonna go opposite from you guys. I'm gonna go Queen in space.
Man.
I go Queen in space because in college he was disinterested in doing anything defensively until he got switched upon. And then when he was on an island or on a switched, his whole mentality was like, no way, you're not getting by me. You're just not gonna do it. And it worked way more often than it should have. He was pretty decent at taking angles. I mean, he's not the most fleet of foot. We know this. But he's pretty decent at taking angles and sliding his feet. And he has incredible hand-eye coordination. And that lets him like poke balls loose and just create deflections and create turnovers. And so I think, I think both are promising. Fears is ahead of schedule in my opinion on three ball. And that is a shot that he's going to need if he wants to succeed as a lead guard. It is so necessary for a lead guard to do. And I think he's had a lot of confidence these last few games. I don't think he's turned those down. But Queen in space on D, that's my pick. He's a wild boy, dude.
The disruption, the level of disruption potential for this team defensively is really exciting. Like I'm not saying they're going to be a good defensive team, but between what you saw, Fierce has had 8 steals last game. Fierce, Queen, Herb Jones. I mean, even Zion. Like, there's a lot of disruption potential here, and hopefully Borrego can play into that.
Fears and Queen are second and third amongst rookies in deflections, 3.1 and 2.8 respectively. And he's from Baltimore. If y'all ain't know that, he's from Baltimore, so he ain't no chump.
From Baltimore.
From Baltimore.
Yeah. So, all right, I want to get to this final question, and I think because we were at the hour mark, gonna get out of here. I got a movie to catch later. So this is from Reload. He said, "From basketball talk, have you learned and Borrego tape from Charlotte and maybe San Antonio and seen a lot of bread and butter, reliable play?" So I think San Antonio and Charlotte were two different situations. In San Antonio, when he was there, it was a while back. There is a big man named Tim Duncan.
Yes.
And obviously there's Tony Parker and Manu and all that. But there's a guy named Tim Duncan, and he lets you do a lot of things. In Charlotte, they had Marvin Williams. And I think Mason Plumlee. And I think Cody Zeller. He wasn't there.
So similar talent levels, right?
Yeah.
That's what you're making.
He wasn't, yeah. He wasn't there for the Al Jefferson era. He won 43 games. Someone had posted that roster, and I was like, man, he won 43 games in that roster. Kind of but there were far more guard talent on the Charlotte team, right? So he went from a team that had a different look in San Antonio to Charlotte, where it's like, okay, well, what do I have on my roster? I have guards. I gotta do something with it. What I think Borrego's been able to do is adapt to what's in front of him, and that's what he's going to do with Zion. And I think that's what he's going to do with Queen. The strengths of this team are far different than the ones in Charlotte. They didn't have a Trey Murphy. They didn't have a Herb Jones. And then even with the guards on this team, Fears and Poole, they're both dynamic in their own right. I think we're going to see a lot of creative stuff. The overall principles, I think, remain the same. As Jeremy mentioned, the aspect that Borrego prided himself on, there's two things. One, that his team were first in the league in assists. Two, he really prides himself on offensive play calling as the game goes on.
Yeah,
and I think that's where we're going to see a big difference from Willie. And we've all made the elbow jokes. We've all made those jokes, but I think Borrego is going to be able to put his best players in positions, in actions together, and we're going to see more of that pick your poison style. Defense has to choose one but has to give up another, as opposed to a ton of screens and action and misdirection for one particular deterministic outcome. It's going to be, no, we're going to put direct pressure on the defense. They got to pick, and we will live with the result of what they pick, because it's going to be a good option either way.
I'm so interested to see third quarter results. Given how bad the Pelicans have been essentially the last 2 years under Willie Green, seeing how if things change under James Borrego, where maybe their halftime's being used for something productive.
Sure.
Yeah, that's basically what I was going to hit on. Like, you seeing that same pass, the screen set, but off ball screen set when they have three movement on outside the arc to set up something, give it a post, something on the post screen in the middle of the court, and they do that in the first quarter, and they do that in the third quarter, and the defense has adjusted already, and that's what the opposing team starts their run because they might get a loose ball, stop them at the paint, and leak out. Yeah, seeing that adjustment is going to be refreshing.
Love it. I think we're going to wrap up there. We've gone on for 64 minutes, and I appreciate everyone that tuned in. Hit that subscribe button, please. We'd appreciate that greatly. Check out the articles on Substack.
Yes.
I think they're worth reading. They're, especially if you've had frustrations towards this team. I think. Whoa, there goes the mic. I think they're worth checking out, because I feel like they may capture some of the thoughts and emotions that you guys are experiencing.
You're a bit humble. Now, people at The Athletic, at Yahoo, at ESPN have all shouted Submit out for his work on that Substack. Go read it. He's putting out great work over there. Like you said, like and subscribe to this podcast and tell your friends. Read his work. He's doing great work this year, man.
Appreciate y'all. Thank you for tapping in with us. We hope to be back talking about actual basketball. Till then, I'll be in the arena tomorrow. We'll have some post-game stuff for you, some pre-game stuff for you. Excited for the JB era. Thank y'all.
Peace. Yeah, I gotta get ready to go to Baton Rouge like yesterday.
Nice.
Talk to y'all soon, man. Hey, any? Oh, is it still going?